So no, I tell them this 10 times a semester, that lawyers are like anybody else. They're not all the same, and you need people who are specialized in the problem that you are encountering. Hey, before we get too far into that, this is another episode of Big Talk about Small Businesses. All right, we are back.
Yes, sir.
It's exciting. It's so good to be here with you guys.
It is.
In the studio today, we've got a very special guest, Lucas Regnier. I call him Luke. It's generally what he goes by. I'm
Absolutely.
sure people probably call you Regnier and all kinds of
I
stuff,
think
right?
it's mangled 9 ways this Saturday back again, but Regnier.
Regnier. See, there you go.
Hey, don't worry. No one's going to get sued for saying his name wrong.
You sure about that?
Yeah. That's Luke's an attorney and has a business here called Startup Boutique that serves startups
That's right.
and other businesses.
Well, all kinds, small cap, mid cap ventures, but we get a lot of traffic from our local community of young founders. This is maybe their first encounter with legal.
Yeah.
And I get them fresh and green, and I get to mold them the way they need to be molded.
Oh my God!
Beautiful.
Lately.
I love it. Like
Yes.
putty in your hands, right?
Clay in the hands of a god.
Hey, before we get too far into that, this is another episode of Big Talk about Small Businesses.
Best
All right.
podcast on the web. Right.
Yeah. So, Luke, I always tell my students. In fact, last night I had to give them this lecture.
What
and
are you
I give
doing
it
hanging
to
out with your students at night?
I teach at night.
Oh, okay.
Not
I was
hanging
just
out
getting
with
clarity.
them at night. God. Anyway, so no, I tell them this 10 times a semester, that lawyers are like anybody else. They're not all the same, and you need people who are specialized in the problem that you are encountering.
Yeah.
I don't go to you for divorce. I don't go to you for traffic tickets. I don't go to you for my wills, trusts, and estates.
Can you help me with my DWI, though?
You don't have a DWI.
Don't be careful there, bro.
But I do go to you for all these ownership-related situations, and that's what you know. And I think people think, well, I'm going to save money and go to this guy over here because he's cheaper. It's my mom's sorority friend or sister from college or whatever.
Right. That's a fantastic point that you actually raised in your book, Confessions of an Entrepreneur, is to focus on the people who are able to help you. And that goes not just legal, but accounting.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, sometimes you've got a CPA who doesn't understand LLC accounting.
Yeah.
And it's you find yourself in untangling messes that maybe should have never occurred.
Amen to that.
Exactly, right. And so, I do try to steer people where they need to be if they have a legal problem that I can't help with. But for the most part, you're right. There's an old adage: beware the high cost of low price. Some people will just go for the lowest cost. Service provider, startups are on a shoestring.
Yeah.
Right.
We're really conserving costs. And so then here's a guy
Yeah.
that's cheap. And then, what you create is a problem that has to be unwound later at a factor of 10.
Yep.
How many times have we encountered that? I mean,
It's putting my kids through college. To be honest.
I mean, we had one situation like that you were involved in with that LLC conversion to a C Corp. And, as it got too many owners over time with a very poorly drafted LLC operating agreement.
Yeah, I not to cast any aspersions. I've ever drafted that. It may have been appropriate at the time, but as a business grows, it has new needs and it needs to adapt. And this is a soapbox I get on about LLCs. We'll talk about that later if you want. But yeah, that was a tough situation where a little bit of lawyering about 5 years ago could have saved you 10 times the lawyering and the pain later. You find yourself in a position where an absent founder with ambiguous rights, maybe has the ability to like bend you over a barrel and squeeze a lot of value out of you. And
Exactly.
everybody goes to their lawyers and realize nobody knows what our rights are. What could have been a $5,000 legal investment is now maybe a $50,000 piece of litigation.
Yeah, or
Or
$200,000
buyout.
negotiation. Yeah,
Exactly, right.
Yeah, it's so true. It's penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah.
And I think as you said earlier on, I mean, how you start a business, the legal foundation of that enterprise is critical to how it evolves.
Right.
You know, it's not just a formality. Like go create an LLC. You know, is that the best legal form of organization for this business?
Well, not always. Right.
Depends on what I'm going to do with it and what kind of business it is, right?
Right. It seems to be the default assumption anymore is that it is an LLC.
It is.
There's a video that keeps popping up every time I get onto YouTube. It's Mark Cuban talking about what to do when it's time to start your LLC. Not should you start an LLC, but when you're going to start your LLC.
Not your company, but your LLC. They've automatically decided. It's predetermined.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so, LLCs are they're a very tax-specific type of entity that are very attractive for certain reasons, but I don't find them to be the best way to run a dynamic enterprise where you're looking to scale up and add on new owners. They have a lot of old partnership law grafted onto the gaps that creates, as we've experienced, Mark, you and I, some very painful consequences when they're not properly lawyered up. So I frequently encourage my founders, if they come into me with an LLC, let's convert to a C Corp. If they come in with a blank question, I say, why don't we start with at least an S Corp, then you can change your election later. But let's talk about stock shares, not about percentage.
Exactly. I mean, look at one of the companies that you handle all the ownership related stuff for now, okay? I mean, you're doing all the legal stuff that we need. The board minutes, the filings that we have to do. Stock sales are coming throughout the year, right?
Right.
How could you couldn't even do that if it was an LLC. Every time somebody buys stock or sells it, we'd have to redraft the operating agreement and get it re-signed.
Right. It's not a real organism, I think, for dynamic business development, particularly people who are taking on new ownership. And this is a curse of, this is a thinking that gets stitched in with a lot of founders, is that we think about you bringing in new owners, everyone's thinking in terms of percentages. And you try to get people weaned off of that. Let's think about terms of shares, numbers of shares.
I've had that problem. Yeah. I've thought the same way.
So
I mean, I have.
Right, you do back of the envelope calculations.
Right. You've dealt with me on that very problem. Okay.
It gets worse. But the problem is that, so you start with, you tell one guy he's got 10%, and another guy you're giving him 5%, and someone else you're giving him 3%, but no one's calculating dilution as you go.
Exactly.
And it creates a situation of ambiguity if it's not properly
or
documented.
Ill will.
Right. I thought I had 10%, and now I've got like 6%. And I didn't agree to this other stuff. Right. I thought, what did I pay for? So it's problematic. So we try to get people weaned off of thinking about percentages and thinking about some sort of objective criteria of ownership. Right?
So what's the value of an LLC then? I mean, there's got to be some value to it.
For sure. Well, first of all, one of the main values is a pass-through tax entity. So the LLC itself doesn't pay taxes. Like a C corporation would. Like a C corporation has to file a tax return, 1040 of its own. The LLC is all pass-through, so there's not that curse of double taxation. The LLC makes $100,000. It's not like it gets taxed and then you distribute it to everybody and then they get taxed again.
Okay.
LLC, so it's a pass-through entity. LLC will issue what's called a Schedule K every year with everybody's prospective shares of whatever the LLC made.
Made for tax purposes. By the
you
way.
may not have seen a nickel.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But if the LLC made $100,000, didn't distribute any of it, and you own 50%, guess what? You just got $50,000 worth of income that you didn't see a nickel off of.
Yeah.
So you hope that the LLC operating agreement says we're at least going to distribute enough to cover your tax obligations.
Well, but by the way, I'm glad I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's a really important point people need to understand. When you've got a pass-through entity like that you're taxed based on what your K-1 says, whether you got the money or not, right? And the way the government looks at it is, if you left it all in there, it's like you made this money, okay, now we're going to tax you. Then you reinvested. That's the way they look at it.
Exactly.
Okay. But the good news also is you can take money out of that pass-through entity at any time and have no tax obligation on it, the cash.
Right.
Potentially, as long as you got a positive basis.
Right. So the LLC is not taxed. It doesn't file its return. It doesn't pay like the whatever percentage. It's deemed ordinary income for most people.
Yes.
Would depend. I'm sure I'm going to get nitpicked by some tax folks on that, but it's deemed to be. So if the LLC makes $1 million in revenue, and you've got 20%, you just recognized a taxable event of $200,000, and you better hope the LLC is going to at least distribute some money to help you cover that. Eric, to answer your question, what I like them for typically is for like asset holding. So it's I think it's a better vehicle for you. You're going to invest in a piece of real estate, a piece of property, something that's a little more static. I think that's a great way to do it.
Why is that though?
Mostly for the tax purposes, and because LLCs are really like low maintenance. You don't have to have meetings, and it's just like the doc. You file your certificate, you hope you get a good operating agreement, and then hand it over to your lawyer and CP. They're pretty low maintenance.
Okay.
But I like
on the tax side and the legal side.
Yeah.
If you're if you're a sole owner of this LLC, it's excellent for asset type of businesses.
Real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you and I are going to buy a piece, it doesn't even have to be a sole ownership. Maybe the two of us are going to buy a piece of real estate, develop it, and then sell it.
Yeah.
There's a limited lifespan of that. And we're not going to bring other owners in.
It's like you keep all your little ventures in a little bucket of a separate legal entity for a whole lot of reasons. And I think an LLC is like the easiest, low-cost way to do it. If I've got like 15 properties, maybe I'll create a few LLCs as holding companies and deal with it, and the tax issues are a little bit easier to do.
And the legal side is to kind of protect you from...
Well, exactly. That's good point, Eric. That's like why people incorporate these entities to begin with. You're creating like this veil between you and the world. So it's like, I know what you're going with there, Mark, but the practical reality is a little bit different. But the theoretical reality is that you have a veil of non-liability. Somebody slips on the property of Howardton LLC's ice cream shop and breaks their neck. They can take a judgment against Howardton LLC ice cream shop, and you don't have that. Like just this veil of non-liability. The practical reality is much more complicated. For like lenders will always insist on personal guarantees.
Yeah.
There's piercing, but that's why we do it. Like that's like the baseline of why do you do this? You're creating an LLC or an entity, any sort of juridical entity is its separate personhood with its own separate bucket.
It's like any kind of like legal situation, right? It's another thing that you have.
Well, it's a speed bump in the process of somebody suing you to oblivion.
Yeah.
That's why we do it.
Yeah, but I'm glad that came up though, because I do want to talk about that. I think, my students, they all take business law. Did you ever teach that?
I've never taught business law.
For some reason I thought you did, but
I teach alternative dispute resolution in the management department, and I'm also teaching ethics and corporate responsibility now, which I'm loving.
That's cool. They need that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the business law classes, they tell people, well, this is your protection against liability. They never go past that to say, okay, great, I've got a C corp, but I'm the only owner of it. I can't say, well, these people over here did something that created some liability that I'm not necessarily part of because I'm the owner, I'm the board of directors, and I'm the officer of the company.
So what are you saying? You're saying that some people think that C Corp doesn't protect you?
No, what I'm saying is that you're still going to get sued in a lot of cases.
Sure.
Whether it's a LLC, a C Corp, any closely held entity, it becomes... Luke can tell us more about piercing the corporate veil, but it's harder to distance yourself from the problem, isn't it?
In a single member entity. So it could be like, I have set up an LLC, I'm the only member.
Yeah.
First, I'm never going to get a bank loan. If you want a line of credit, you're going to personally guarantee
Exactly.
it. Someone slips and falls and breaks their neck, of course the plaintiff's lawyer is going to take a crack at me personally. They're going to try to pierce the veil.
Right.
So you want to carry insurance.
Right.
You want to insure the entity and probably up your personal liability insurance too. Because there's always, those single member entities are a little precarious. It gets better When you've got a more dynamic entity that's got like a few more board members, maybe more diverse capital structure, and you've got like all the trappings of a legit business.
Yes.
You know, as opposed
Exactly.
to just like, this is my alter ego. I'm going to pretend like it's not Luke, it's Luke LLC. So go take a judgment against that
Exactly.
and go pee up a rope, right? That's not, you know, that's a bit different.
Yeah. So again, I guess my point of that is that the liability protection is a fuzzy
Right.
thing, right? I mean, because in any closely held corporation, they're going to go after the
For sure.
The
Someone will
owners.
take a swing at you. That's right.
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, LLCs, good for limited lifespan, good when the ownership's not changing, right? Like you said, it's not a dynamic entity.
Right.
We don't have like owners coming and going. As soon as we start doing that, then
And here's another angle to that, Mark, is that you know, a lot of people here are looking up the ladder a little bit. They're looking for the next big angel investor,
Right.
and the golden outcome for a lot of local startups is to find a VC, which gets talked about a lot. But
doesn't happen often.
yeah.
Like
But
one out of 500 or something.
right. I mean, you really
Yeah.
have a good business that way. But you know, these people are going to not. I mean, I think that on the East Coast, the culture's changing a little bit, but at least for the most part, most VC investors are going to not want to invest in an LLC. They want you to have a C Corp because they're going to want preferred stock, right? And so if you don't do it now, you're going to spend a multiple later to convert to the entity that the investors you want you to be in.
Right.
You know,
so why not just wait
Well, just
until
start, right? Let's just start with a C Corp, right? And then you can, you know, deal with it later, as opposed to later when you get this fractionalized interest and you need a bajillion consents and it's complicated and you've got this mess of documents that no one has ever looked at. And now you've got that angel that you wanted, or maybe if you strike it rich, the VC investor that you wanted, and they come in and they look and say, this is a friggin' mess. Clean it up. All right, so now you've got a big expense.
And do LLC members, because we don't have stockholders in LLCs, they're members and they have ownership interest, do they all have, to a certain extent, veto rights over anything? Because any change in the LLC operating agreement requires all signatures, does it not? Or
is that
not necessarily a mandate?
Yeah, not necessarily. So it depends on a well-written operating agreement. You can sort of craft your way around that.
Okay.
A lot of operating agreements aren't well crafted, and so there's a default, like, gap-filling provisions that come from a uniform LLC law that a lot of states that have adopted. Arkansas has adopted it a few years ago. It just gets more complicated to do that. But the fractionalization of interest becomes a bit problematic. So a lot of LLCs that I see, a lot of ones that I write now, create a sort of a shadow stock. We call them units in an LLC. Like we've got like, how many units are you buying in this LLC? So it's basically mimicking the behavior of stock.
I see.
We're trying to sort of circle the square of all these problems. But no, the baseline philosophy behind the LLC is like it's sort of like this partnership type entity, and usually partners have lots of rights. And so if there's a gap, if there's a problem, then we're going to default a lot of times to sort of common law, partnership law, and it's problematic. So, I don't want to poop all over LLCs too much, but I just tend to recommend for my startup and new venture clients that let's just start right now with a corporation.
Is there a difference in cost to the startup between a C Corp and an LLC?
A little bit. Like I would say.
We got to have bylaws. We got to have a shareholder agreement, right?
Well, so there is a bit of more. Eric, it's a good point. There's a bit more of a cost.
Ready to level up your show? At podcastvideos.com, we offer industry-leading recording and expert marketing to help your show reach more listeners. From creation to distribution, we've got you covered. Visit podcastvideos.com and elevate your podcast today.
So we begin with, any entity begins with the filing of a certificate with the Secretary of State, sort of breathes it into existence. With an LLC, your next document is just the operating agreement. That may be the only thing you ever mess with. With a corporation, so we need the incorporator will appoint initial directors. The directors hold an initial meeting, which may just be a piece of paper, adopt the bylaws, approve the initial capital structure, and then everybody buys their shares. That's like a lot of people don't realize. Like you start a company, you actually have to buy your shares. Now, par value for a new corp is usually like a thousandth of a cent or something. So it's not a big investment. But we have, for securities laws purposes, another big topic. We have this sort of structure to where people need to buy in. So that's documented. We file, we create a corporate minute book. Everything, every step from the founding of this company to the present is documented with appropriate board resolutions, shareholder resolutions if necessary. We're keeping the book, I call it. It's called corporate hygiene. Yep. And we need good corporate hygiene. If you want to go to founders and funders, angels, crowdfunding entities, et cetera, like I think some of us are doing right now, then you need to have a good book. And yeah, it does take a bit more maintenance, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's a bit self-serving for me to say you should do this because I'm a lawyer and I do that.
You can maintain this though for a small business.
Exactly.
You can just handle all that and say you guys need to do this, X, B, A, B, C, D.
I'll keep your minute book for you. We'll share the file. You can always access it. And so it's like a little bit self-serving for me to say that, but it's like a dentist. The dentist says, go to the dentist every 6 months. It's because they don't want you to come back with like a mouthful of root canals, you know? I mean, we all have an objective interest in healthy clients. Like I want my people to be healthy. Aesthetically pleases me to see a well-kept corporate minute book where everything is cool.
It's so hard though for really small companies.
Yeah,
you see like what we go through.
The burden of a small business that's trying to get their idea out, whatever they're not doing. They're trying to build a business, and then now they got to deal with corporate bylaws.
They're not worried about that stuff. It's a bureaucratic
it's just stressful. I mean, you always kind of feel a little bit like you're under threat, like you didn't record your minutes, so therefore somebody's going to have a big complaint and stuff. I mean,
But that's where guys like Luke, though, you could just say, deal with this for us.
But what does that look like, Luke?
No, what does it look like? So one of the things I do is
it's like fractional in-house.
Exactly, fractional in-house. So like there's a barrier between I don't have anybody versus I got to hire in-house counsel. So there's a sort of increasing business model that's out there, which I do, called fractional in-house counsel. Like you basically pay me a monthly retainer, I'll just manage your business. A lot of firms are still on the hourly rate model, which is painful because you don't know what you're getting. It's like calling the carpenter and you don't know what you're going to pay. You need a quote up front. So another thing I do is try to pay, like, here's a flat fee. Pay this, we'll be cool. You need to move to the next step. Okay, so you can sort of budget it. And then, so again, the idea is to create full transparency so people know what you're into when you're calling a lawyer. And again, one of the things I want to emphasize for people is that, maybe it's a bit painful, but if you you found a business, everything is roses. You're gonna revolutionize the whatever industry. You're gonna move fast and break things, blah 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 blah, right? And everything's cool.
Cliche.
6 months or a year down the line, all of a sudden, there's a lot of friction between you and your partner. He's picking at your business decisions. He's absent. He's vanishes for 3 months at a time. And he's meditating in India or whatever. And you're now I'm going to go to the lawyer. We got a problem. And you hand him this thing you generated off ChatGPT or you downloaded from Rocket Lawyer. And the lawyer reads it over, puts their head in their hands and does this and says, here's the 6 ways you're screwed. Yeah. And it's going to cost you $50,000. So, that little bit of going to the dentist 6 months ago might have saved you a root canal today. Yeah. That's sort of my philosophy.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this whole thing of getting investors in privately held companies and the accredited investors or whatever the terminology is. I think there's a couple different terms that are used. Tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure.
How that works.
That's a thing that trips a lot of people up, that people aren't fluent with, is that every time you sell any interest in your company, you've committed basically a securities law event. This is a regulated thing. I have a worm farm and I sell you $1 interest in my worm farm, promising you that I'll triple your investment in 6 months. I just committed something that the SEC is probably interested in. Right. Maybe not. But that's the idea. Any sale of what is called a security, and that is any sort of equity ownership in your company, is a regulated event. And if it is not registered, then it is forbidden. Registered means like I've done an IPO and I'm trading like on the NASDAQ or NYSE or whatever, right?
We all know about that.
Exactly.
Right?
That's like $1 billion of like underwriter fees and all that stuff to go through. So nobody does that in the startup world. What we do instead is we look for what are called exemptions from registration. So I want to sell Mark, 500 shares in my company, and I'm going to look for an exemption from registration. And that needs to be documented, because eventually, like a lot of people think I'm just going to fly under the radar and I'll just
Nobody
sell.
will know.
No one will ever know. Maybe no one ever does. But maybe you're that one gazelle in the herd that the lion catches to make an example out of, right? To use a kind of gross analogy, but the SEC eventually does, and state regulators are interested in this too. If I sold you 500 shares in my company, and all I do is say, you give me a check and I'll just give you a piece of paper that says stock certificate on it. We just like laid a minefield in front of us that somebody's going to step on at some point. So what we do, again, so we look for the sort of baseline, easiest way around this is only sell shares to millionaires. Millionaires, yeah, right, nice little rhyme. Millionaires are for the most part we call accredited investors. That's a term of art in securities law compliance. That means they're sophisticated enough, they can bear the loss. It's not like somebody's grandma.
They know the risk.
They know the risk. They can bear the risk. And so you sell to what are called accredited investors, and there's specific exemptions in securities laws that make that work. But you need a good stock purchase agreement that says, it makes all these representations. That person needs to check a box. We'll call it an accredited investor questionnaire that you can put in your file in case anyone ever comes looking.
Right.
And then here's the big thing a lot of people just don't ever screw with. You need to file something with the Securities Exchange Commission. There's a thing called a Form D that it's very informational. Most of the time nobody ever reads it, but you're supposed to do it. And if you don't do it, you might lose your ability to rely on this exemption in the future. Being able to file Form D, you're in the Edgar database. Getting the codes can be complex, but it's worth it. And doing all this stuff, people say, why do I have to do all that? Like, nobody does this stuff, right? I've never heard of this. Why? I'm just going to sell Mark 500 shares and not spend $1 bajillion on it. Well, yeah, again, later, the company is going gangbusters. We're making money hand over fist. Now we're ready for VC. And they come in and look at it. You've made all these sales. You've got liability, securities law liability lying all over the place.
Now you're going to hit the radar of the regulators.
Now you may hit the radar. But here's even the more tangible bad situation that happens. Maybe somebody's not an accredited investor.
Right.
Maybe they're close, or you didn't document it right, or you did something wrong. What you've done is you've handed them a loaded gun to point at your head whenever they say, I don't like this company anymore. I want my money back.
It was misrepresented, the deal.
Or this was a sale. This was a sale of an unregistered security that didn't apply for an exemption. That means the purchaser has the right to rescission of the sale. That means undoing it, interest, and attorney's fees. That's a gun that can point at your head whenever because invariably some shareholder becomes a problem. We've all experienced it. Like somebody becomes a pain behind. That person will look, they see the company's not going away, they like that it's going, and they're going to hand it to a lawyer, and the lawyer's going to go, ha, guess what? This was actually in violation of securities laws, and here's the gun we can point back at them, bend them over a barrel to get your money back with some extra juice on top of it. So that's the risk.
And I'd add another practical thing to that maybe entrepreneurs will really get, right, and be impactful, is that if you don't have all that stuff done correctly and you do have VC capital or investors come in, it's going to extend that due diligence process. So what could have closed to get the capital in 30 days, now is going to be 90 days, 6 months.
Or you're going to sell the business and it's the same problem and sell it entirely. Yeah. That's a really good point.
And that's where real money hits you in the face, right? As an entrepreneur, you're like, that capital opportunity is a big deal for you to grow your business. If it gets stalled out,
It's the same thing as having audited financials, a history of audited financials. It's going to speed things up versus here's our compilation that came out of QuickBooks, okay? I mean, there's no faith in that, so there's going to have to be a lot more
the whole
diligence.
due diligence process is just painful.
Eric raised a fantastic point that the due diligence process gets expensive, and the longer it goes on, the more likely it is that a deal will fall through.
100%.
Yes, time's the enemy. I agree.
Well, people just start, the buyer starts losing their oomph to it, right? They just get less excited, or macro events change, or whatever.
Exactly.
Interest rates go, whatever.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Anything happened in the business that makes them concerned. So they
the
leave,
CEO decided to do something different.
Right. I mean, there's just a million things that can go wrong, as we all know.
So the difference between a 1 month of due diligence and 3 months or 6 months can be a deal killer.
100%.
Sure.
And by the way, if you're the entrepreneur, like the amount of time and energy it takes to go through that is exhausting.
That takes you away from your primary business, and then the business itself suffers, and then the valuation suffers, or the buyer's concerned, right? Yeah, all those things.
It's bad. It's bad. So to me, the attractive thing about the C Corp deal is 100% about the energy, the
legitimacy,
the fluid part of having a really clean corporate hygiene. So that I can raise capital quickly and get back to work.
Exactly, Eric. And another thing about a C Corp too is that it has the power to issue multiple classes of stock.
Yes.
So if you want to issue preferred, like you're going to get, here's some guys that I want to bring them in, but unlike my other shareholders, I want to give them a dividend or interest or whatever. Then you can do that, and you create another class of stock, and you can do that with a C Corp. You can't do that with an S Corp.
And you can do it quickly.
Yes. I'd be to file an amended certificate of incorporation, but it's much, much easier to do with a C Corp.
So let me ask this practical example. Like, let's say Mark is interested in putting money in my business, and we agreed, hey, you're going to put $20,000 in, right? And my value is this. I mean, first of all, is valuation even such a big deal?
Yeah, there's got to
at that level, like, because I'm going to give you so many shares back for your $20,000, but there's possibility of dilution down the road, which everybody understands, right?
Right.
And so that whole discussion of valuation is another sticking point, right? Like, what am I worth?
Yeah, exactly.
And so Mark's gonna give me 20 grand. To be honest with you, like, 20 grand's not much to me, but it is a little bit helpful. It helps my capital.
Yeah, it helps
which is great. But I'm not exiting off of you.
No.
I don't want to spend 30, 60 days dealing with your 20 grand. Right?
Exactly. Yeah,
that's
it's a minor
part
thing.
of my problem. Like, I've always had this problem. Like, I've got folks that would like to be part of the businesses that I'm doing. They can see, the momentum and stuff. But, like, to deal with that, but I would like for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't want to deal with that.
All the sort of
what's your value?
filings, valuation.
Well, see, that's why I rely on him. Well, okay, it solves that problem.
So you can just say, hey, go talk. Yeah, go talk to Luke.
No, I don't say, hey, go talk to Luke. I say, Luke, what do I have to do? Paper this up. Give me all the stuff that they've got to fill out or sign in order for this to be legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Valuation is a bit more sticky, though. You've got to have sort of a meeting of the mind
the valuation
between you
do.
and your investor.
Yeah.
Do you need to go get like a back of the envelope valuation? I mean, there's a whole cottage industry out there of people that provide valuations of new ventures that are private company, and it is really arbitrary. But if you can just avoid all that, like you say, look, here's my revenue, here's what expectations are. If you're cool with it, I'm cool with it. And just try to always make sure that you don't undervalue what the last people put in that, because that creates a lot of stress.
Yes.
But if you could agree.
Because I sold Mark 100 shares for $20,000, but then I sold somebody else 200 shares for $20,000.
Yeah, that creates a lot of bad
pisses Mark off. Yeah, really
if
quick.
I find that. But
real fast.
Can we go? I just want to go back to this. Some things that came up with the two of you both here. So first off, define what an accredited investor is for our audience.
Absolutely.
You got to have a certain net worth and a certain income, and that net worth has to be outside of your personal home.
Absolutely. So an accredited investor is somebody that has either $200,000 of income per year over the last 2 years, as shown in their 1040s, or $1 million in assets excluding their primary residence. And there's a whole slew of subcategories of other things that could be institutions and whatnot.
Isn't it like $300,000 if you're married?
If you're married, $300,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then but the policing of that is pretty easy. So if I want to sell you some shares, what I'll just do is hand you an accredited investor questionnaire.
Yeah, and I don't have to do.
Now I want to qualify that a little bit too, because part of that is the SEC doesn't like people publicly advertising. Hey, you can go on the internet and say, "Here's my company. We're taking investors now. Come sign up." Okay, that is a big no-no.
Yeah.
Like I can't even stress how big of a no-no that is. That's called a general solicitation. And under Rule 506B, you're not allowed to do any general solicitations. It needs to be like people you already know. If you want to do the general solicitation, like I'm just going to cast it out, I could say I'm only going to take accredited investors. Well, if somebody contacts me off the internet that I don't know from Adam, then at that point, I need to see their 1040s. I really need documented. I can't just give them a check the box, self-certify. I have to have proof of my file. The best practice, I think, is to not do what we call general solicitations, which is put on your website, we're taking investors.
Sure.
Now, that just raises 15 red flags. That will get the attention of regulators.
But let's go back to that income thing for a minute. Let's say I've got a tax return and I grossed $1.1 million last year. But with all my depreciation on my real estate and everything else, my tax return says I made $82.5. Am I going to have a problem with my accredited investor?
Yeah, you got me there.
Because I think that's common for a lot of people.
Line on your
there were years.
What's the bottom line in your 1040 is what I would typically tell people to go by.
I had $800,000 worth of depreciation. I just reduced my income dramatically.
In that situation, I'm probably just going to rely on the fact that you've probably got more than $200,000 worth of assets too.
Oh, my assets could be off the chart, but I'm just saying my income.
It's either or. It doesn't have to be both.
Oh, I thought it was said to be both.
No. It could be either or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can still have assets that
Right.
that you can basically liquidate in your.
Yeah.
I guess the whole thing to this.
Got it.
So the whole premise of this, I think, that entrepreneurs.
I'm sorry, I've been talking backwards for the benefit of the audience. It's $1 million in assets or $200,000 a year in income.
Okay.
I've been talking backwards. I have too much coffee this morning.
No, you haven't been talking backwards.
I'm confused. No. It's back. So. You can, but again, Mark, it's an either or. It's either the income or the assets. If you check one of those boxes,
very important
you're
to
cool.
know.
Right.
Okay,
and they're just assets. Doesn't matter.
Just outside of your real estate. It could be stocks, other real estate, business value,
and outside of your primary home,
primary residence. It could be your
primary residence.
Right. Anything else is cool.
So I think the thing that's important for entrepreneurs to understand is the reason for those stipulations and those requirements, and for the SEC and for all these regulatories, is literally to protect the investor, because from the dawn of time, people have been ripped off crazily. Sure. Way before our generation.
We go back to the 18th century, Eric, the South Seas Company and people buying shares and the New World Ventures.
Yeah, sure.
And bubble crash was the cycle. And finally, 1920s, everyone goes, this sucks. We got to stop this. And so we have the Securities Exchange Act.
The stock market crash.
Exactly, stock market crash of 1929.
It all.
So now we have two major pieces of legislation that follow that, with the idea is to protect the investor from scammers. Of course, the whole, I'm going to get started on crypto, but that's a whole other
to me, that's actually very, that kind of connects a lot of dots for me as an entrepreneur, right? And I think hopefully the other listeners are like that. It's why do I have to deal with this crap as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Well, it's not because your business sucks, or it's not because the government wants more money from you and attorneys want more money from you and accountants.
No, there's a good reason for it.
There's a really good reason for it, right? And I think that if anybody put $1,000 or $10,000 into something, they just don't want it to poof go away.
Exactly.
Because there are a lot of ill-intended snake oil sales things that are going on out there.
Yep.
And to be a bona fide business. And so it actually helps protect you as a true entrepreneur too, because now you're not in this bucket of a bunch of liars. If you do it right, you set it up right, you approach investors.
Exactly.
That's why it's these laws Eric, that have made the United States, and I'm going to soapboxing here.
No, go with
one
it.
of
I
the
love it.
best
Yes.
places
Yes.
to invest.
Sure.
Yes.
We have risk tolerance as part of our culture, but we have a strong protective system with rules that everybody knows and that everybody plays by, and
They're
that is our
enforced.
tradition. That is why we have become, above the EU, above so many other markets,
Sure.
like the go-to place for this dynamic culture of startup investment.
I love that statement. And we also have regulators that enforce those things.
Yeah, that's the other
It's
part
what gives
of it,
the
right?
confidence in the
Yeah.
markets. It gives confidence to investors that
That's right.
we have rules.
That's right.
God
And you
bless
can't-
America.
God bless America.
America.
I love it.
Okay.
This show
now,
finally has come to where I wanted it to be.
now wait a sec. No, I want to get off that though for
Patriotism.
1
Yes.
second.
Yeah. All right. Where are we going next? Can I dunk on America now?
No.
No, just go on with your question before you lose
No.
the momentum of this.
What about when these people are our employees? The same rules don't apply. Let's say Eric's got this business. He's got a good manager over there, really wants to tie that person down and sell him some ownership.
Great. I'm glad you raised that. It's a whole new category. So there's a lot of people believe that as long as I'm just selling to employees, that's cool. And that, for the most part, there's a rule, Rule 701, that allows you to give equity to people as compensation. But again, there's a framework for that. You're supposed to have a written plan. So when people want to do this, the first thing I tell them is you need what's called a employee equity incentive plan. And it's like a 6-page document or whatever. I pull it out of my library, custom tailored to my clients. You've got this plan, you adopt it with your board, it's in the minutes, and then you make an offer to the employee with a written document called a stock grant or an option grant.
Well, it doesn't have to be free. What if I'm selling it to them? There's not a grant. I'm just going to sell it.
If you're selling it to...
I'll
if you-
finance it, though.
back
I'll
up.
finance 100% of it, but I'm going to sell you. You're my number one guy. I'm going to sell you 10% of my company for $200,000, and I'm going to write a 5-year note, and you can pay for it over bonuses or payroll deduction or whatever you want.
We run into this a lot. So if you're so it's one thing to give equity as compensation, but if it's a fundraising thing, then we're out of that. Right, we're back to: are you accredited? If you're not accredited,
Even an employee?
Even an employee.
I'm a law office, for God's sakes. I'm a corporation, but I got 10 lawyers.
Yeah, we can get into that. But if the purpose of the equity grant is not compensation, if I'm not giving it to you because you're rendering valuable services to me, but instead it's a fundraising device.
It's neither. It's a retention device. I want to say, and I want you to be able to get a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow 20 years from now when I sell this business.
Well, okay, so you're really straddling that line between compensation. So what you're telling me is it was really actually compensation because I want you to keep it around here. Now, it's true. Practically speaking, a lot of these do straddle the fence, right? I want people to err on the side of caution, because I'm conservative and I believe in doing the most safe thing. When people say, oh, you're just self-serving, you just want to make money off of lawyer fees. No, I just want you to be protected. If it is truly compensation, then we have a whole different category. I want you to be retained. Like I'm giving you a discount. If this is like not what I would sell it to another arm's length investor for, then that's compensation. And okay, right? Now, we're in a whole new universe of tax issues too, by the way, when we do that.
Okay.
So employee.
I did that for years in my business, growing it. I had 23 or 24 shareholders at the time I sold
that were employees?
That were employees, all employees, no outside owners.
If you grant equity to an employee,
didn't grant anything. Everybody signed a note and paid for it through payroll deduction.
Was it market value?
No, it was discounted.
Okay, the discount is what the IRS is interested in.
Yeah, I know. They want to show that as income for the employee.
It would show, like if you give if I give you stock that's worth $1 million, but you only paid $500 for it, like you've just recognized income of $500,000. That's what the IRS cares about.
But isn't that a lot more complicated than just granting out stock to an employee?
If I grant
achieving
stock
the same
to employee,
thing.
So in
I'm
that
not achieving the same thing. I want them to put some skin in the game.
Let's just forget. Can we
they're putting their
hypothetically
money. They're sacrificing their income in order to invest in the company.
Okay.
You got skin in the game now.
Let's make the hypothetical a little bit different so I can discuss the issue clearly, and then we can move into that, because you're into like this this intermediate zone, which is really complicated.
This is the world that I came out of. The
I got you.
professional service industry
Right.
employs several million people. Architecture, engineering, environmental consulting. Okay, that's the way they do it, by and large, the majority.
So it's like an industry kind of vein that's what they would do, and so you participate in that way. Kind of like
Yes.
attorneys set up partnerships.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It just had
There's the
it's a
income
mechanism.
club where the
What?
value never really has any, or the ownership has no value other than you get more income. That's one model. And then there's the model of you're investing in this company and hopefully it grows, and then you're going to sell your stock to somebody below you or through
I
the
think
company.
Go ahead.
I was going to
yeah.
say. So, if you're granting equity for less than market value as compensation, is to like stick around and retention bonus, there's a taxable event there near.
I understand that.
Right. So, what we try to do is try to put brackets around that taxable event. So, if it's just an outright grant, the person has received, like if I grant somebody stock, but I granted them that because I wanted them to make me a loan, then it may be that, that grant of stock is like a gift that, guess what? They just received $1 million worth of stock that needs to go on their 1040.
Yeah, I understand that.
If I,
But again, that's not the model that my industry uses predominantly. Predominantly, the person is paying for that stock. Sometimes they're paying market value. Sometimes the company may have an ESOP that requires an annual appraisal.
Boom.
And so they're buying stock, though, outside the ESOP at the same valuation that the ESOP set, because it's required to have an appraisal done every year. So, but the other shares that are held outside the ESOP are trading at the same price that the ESOP shares are.
Do we have 5 minutes? Do we have time? Are we done?
So I have to go to, but y'all can keep going if it's not, because I have another show that I have to do. But y'all can keep dialoguing because this is freaking awesome, super valuable.
It is.
Like I hope you come back, Luke.
Okay. Oh yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But I mean, keep going. I'll just slip out.
Okay.
And nobody will ever know.
Tie that knot up for real quick after you.
Okay. Well, what can we do to harass Luke while you're here? Because I think it's important we should give him a hard time about
I think,
something.
but I mean, I'm really interested in asking questions. I mean, this is kind of like free
legal
advice hour right now for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, the thing about I would love to really understand because to me the business is about growing.
Yeah.
Having a structure that allows for fast growth. Here's what drives me absolutely insane. I can never get down to a real solid answer. I feel like that Silicon Valley has some sort of secret that we don't have in Northwest Arkansas that allows them to grow rapidly with VCs. It's just like boom, boom, boom. Like, I mean, I watch the news every day about this stuff.
And you see the
insane.
numbers. It's insane.
But you get to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And here I am.
They want to talk multiples of EBIT. It's like, forget that.
I know, it's
right?
like, my God, man, I don't have, look, my valuation is constantly growing. Like if I told you it was $1 million today, it's gonna be $1.5 million tomorrow. And it's gonna be $2 million and $3 million. And you're gonna be like, well, show me the numbers. I'm like, I can't show you the numbers, but have you read the news? Do you see what's going on in the world?
Do you see what these companies are trading for?
Yeah, exactly. Did you see that OpenAI just like spent $26 billion on this stuff? Like, you not see? And I'm like, I don't have time for that. It makes me so aggravated because I feel like I'm running in mud. Yeah. Like, how do I build a structure, just something that is fluid? Because those guys are doing it. They are doing it all day, Luke.
We're catching up, though. I think that's something about Northwest Arkansas is that for all of our rah-rah-rahism, we're still behind, but we're getting there. People are getting used to seeing Northwest Arkansas companies and understanding we're the retail capital of the world.
Yes.
And that there's actually a lot of free money chasing good ideas around here. What we need, Eric, is more good ideas. And I think we'll get that. Like West Coast, like the Bay Area's got
shit ton of good ideas.
They've got like Stanford, and they've got like, culture of like, they've got Y Combinator, they've got well-established accelerators.
So
we're getting there. It's just like, it takes some building, we're getting there.
So, okay, so on my perspective as in the entrepreneurial space, I'm ready for that. we are ready. I know folks that are ready for that.
Yeah.
My hurdle is the legal structure of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the entrepreneurs over here, and we got the investors over here. I know a lot of the entrepreneurs. I know a lot of the investors. My problem is that what is the bridge between them that I can't seem to find out the answer right now to make the bridge comfortable for both parties to walk across and meet and do something.
That's a beautiful picture.
Thank you, Mark. It is.
You know?
And I'm so infuriated by this bridge is not being built. And that's the bridge I'm talking about that's in Silicon. There is some bridge that is going on there that we don't have here, and we've got to build this bridge like in 30 days. Because if we don't build it in 30 days, there's going to be some really big missed opportunities. And Silicon's going to build so many bridges that they will be the retail capital.
They have
How scary is that?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking in 2 years. I'm talking in 6 to 9 months.
Wow.
That's what I see. Mm-hmm. And so I want to figure out that bridge ASAP because there is a lot of opportunities that we can grab. And so my question comes, okay, is it C Corp? Sounds like it's C Corp. Is it, and this includes employee incentives because that's what they do there too.
Yep. Sure.
Options.
That's a big way they get good
options,
people.
But what's options versus grants versus ESOP versus all this stuff?
Yes.
Like, just
Lord,
give me the answer. I need somebody to give me the freaking bridge.
We gotta talk again.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Good.
Good
Hey,
talk to you.
appreciate you
Good
being on the show.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
All right, I'm going to silently slip out now.
No, well, I think what we need to do is we're going to end the show today, and we'll have Luke back again.
Good. We
Okay.
can talk more about ESOPs. And
We've been on an hour.
There's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. Let's just have Luke back.
And this is such a valuable conversation to start. I love the name of your company, the Startup Boutique. I mean, I just want to say thank you for your vision for our founders and startup and entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm glad to know that you're available because this is such, and thank you, Mark, for bringing Luke in, man. I mean,
No,
it's a good thing.
The thing is, I do want to emphasize, though, to the group, our listeners out there, Luke does deal with more than startups.
Right.
But, like we've got a situation, and he works outside of this state, too. I mean, he helped me out on a deal in California where we wanted to sell stock to key people in a company. Mm-hmm. And so all these issues are, this whole compliance issue and coming up with the method to do it and be legit. Mm-hmm. You need the assistance of somebody that does this every day. I guess that's the point. We're never going to know all this stuff. People like you and me. Never.
Well, no, exactly. And I would say for our audience, because we got, experienced entrepreneurs and then people are thinking about it. People are just starting up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the testament, the experienced entrepreneurs know how important good legal partnership is, just like accounting partnership.
Yes,
like
accounting.
It is huge.
Yeah.
And you don't know until you need it, which is terrible. But for startups, you definitely need to go talk with somebody. You need to build a relationship with your legal partners.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be just one.
Right.
Because if we got in an M&A situation.
Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. There's a community around here, and it's a small community, but I'm very happy to always refer people to other firms around here that when I need help. And so we're building, too, the legal to get together and do this.
Yeah, because there's some good there's some good firms. Like when you start talking to a big acquirer, you might need some specialization in those negotiations, right? That know how to discuss that and negotiate that.
Dealing with things like warrants and reps of a sale.
Dude,
that's the whole thing right there. Okay.
So
generally, the buyer wants you to guarantee all your employees and clients will stay for life.
That's right.
Okay, with unlimited liability on your
and
part.
as a seller, I want the chains off my freaking wrist, right? I don't want to work for you.
That's
for
where a
5
really
years.
good attorney comes in.
100%.
Okay,
and it's also where a really good entrepreneur that's working with a good attorney knows their negotiation leveraging stick, because you can have a vision of how you want to sell.
Yes.
And you don't have to succumb to to just whatever the buyer gives you.
No, absolutely. Hey, we're going to pick this up again.
Okay. Great
Luke,
episode.
is that
Thanks.
okay?
Yeah, let's come
How do
back.
people get a hold of Luke
To
real
reach
quick?
you? Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
How do they get a hold of me?
Yeah.
Lucas Regnier. Lucas at RegnierStartupBoutique.com. You can also just Google Regnier Law Firm. You'll see my smiling mug on my website. Shoot me an email. Happy to
spell Regnier.
REGN as a negative IER.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
guys. Appreciate it.
Hey,
Yeah,
thanks,
great.
everybody. This has been another episode of
That
Big
Talk
About
Small.
Business.com.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Big Talk About Small Business. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, be sure to head over to our website, www.bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com, and click on the Ask the Host button for the chance to have your questions answered on the show. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn at Big Talk About Small Business. And be sure to head over to our website to read articles, browse episodes, and ask questions about upcoming shows.